A very good evening to parents who are online this evening. For those parents who don't know me, my name is Hewson and I lead the pre-16 part of the school. And a very warm welcome to you all this evening, where we're looking at how we can work together to manage technology uses. Now, this is probably one of the main concerns that is shared by parents from the new students right the way through all the year groups. And I hope this evening will be informative and can give you lots of ideas and suggestions to work through with your child at home, as well as information on the current tech which your children are using at the moment. Now, in advance of this evening, I would also like to invite Miss Kelly just to share some initiatives. Thanks, Miss Kelly. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Miss Kelly has been working with some of our Year 7 parents in advance of this evening to make sure the information that we're going to share with you all is really what you want to find out about. So I'm going to just allow Patty to explain some of the work that she's been doing over the last few weeks.
Thanks, Guy. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this Monday evening to join us on this very important webinar, looking at managing technology use and developing some strategies at home and at school for us to help, our children to have a good relationship with technology. As part of preparation for this webinar, I met with some parents during a coffee morning and gained some valuable feedback on the main issues and concerns that they have around their child's technology use. Additionally, our lovely student voice sent questions around to the Year 7 students around their technology use to see what concerns they have about their own technology use and how we as a school community can help them, in managing that. And finally, I did send out an email to all you parents for some feedback also. So with all that information collated, Hugh has a very informative presentation webinar ready for us this evening. So I hope you enjoy.
Great, thanks very much, Patty. So if I can just invite Mr. Brown, Hugh Brown, to come on the screen, please. And parents.
Hello, Guy. Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much, Hugh. So parents, just whilst you are listening to this webinar, you'll see underneath Hugh, there is a Q&A button. Maybe if I could encourage you to listen to Hugh's presentation as we go through, and then we'll open up to quick Q&A at the end of Hugh's presentation. And we'll both come off our screens, Patty, and then we'll let Hugh continue. Thanks very much, Hugh.
Okay, thank you. Right. So if we now just share the screen and we're good to go. Okay, so tonight's session is managing your child's technology use. And then at the end there, I put in partnership. It's a big partnership. It's a partnership between the school and yourselves. And you hopefully by the end of the evening, you're going to realize it's a partnership between yourself and your child. Nothing is really going to happen without their permission. And that's something that I hope we get clear throughout this presentation. But as Guy said, do please drop questions in onto the chat, and we'll definitely try and address those as we go along. In tonight's session, we're going to be looking at these are the issues. So we're going to be looking at sleep matters. We're going to look at how to break down the tech barriers, what tech we've got at school that we think you should know. And then, of course, coming in very new, very recently amongst all the newcomers is ChatGPT. And we'll have a look at ChatGPT and perhaps maybe what we're doing with it, some of the concerns and all this type of thing. And then finally, at the end, we're going to look at technical intervention. What technical things can you do to monitor and manage your child's tech use? So that's where we're going to go, and it should take about 20 minutes or so. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know whether you're aware, but the NHS in the UK, the Health Service, has guidelines for the number of hours sleep that children should have. And if your child's up to about 12 years old, they should be getting between 9 and 12 hours sleep at night. If your child's a little bit older, they should be getting 8 to 10 hours, so 13 to 18-year-olds. And we find perhaps this is the biggest issue, and it might come as some surprise to parents, is forget all the issues with chat, to forget all the issues with using tech. It's the tech is stopping your child sleeping. And perhaps the one earliest and best intervention you can make is to make sure that your child gets sufficient sleep. How much sleep do West Island students get? Well, this was a survey we did in 2020, just before COVID. And this is the sort of standard bedtime for year 7 students in that cohort. It was done by our digital leaders, and you'll see that well over sort of half the students in year 7 were going to bed sort of after 9:30, and many of them still going to bed at 11 o'clock at night. Obviously, if they're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning or to go to school, then those students falling after the sort of the 9:30 at the latest are probably not getting sufficient sleep. And if that's them going to their bedroom and then using the tech without your knowledge, then they're probably going to sleep a lot later than that. So the biggest thing you can do is make sure your child gets enough sleep. Our advice here is get all the devices out of the bedroom, okay? And try to get them off the devices 1 hour before actual curfew or lights out. The one thing that we do find is that parents get isolated by their children. And the parents a parent who's trying very hard to get their child off the devices at 8:30, so they go to bed at 9:30, their child's screaming and shouting, "It's not fair, nobody else does." And what we're hoping by seeing this slide here is that, yes, they do. Sort of almost 40% of the cohort in year 7, do manage to get their children into bed by 9:30. But obviously you as a parent in your own house aren't aware of that kind of data. So what runs through all of this presentation is you pretty much know what's right in your gut and the way you're looking after your children. So try not to be isolated if your child's using the argument, "It's not fair," because mostly it probably is fair. Okay, the one thing that we do see is that please don't let them charge their devices in their bedroom at night. Get all the devices out of the bedrooms, get them charging somewhere where you can see them charging. Because what will happen is they gradually sneak back into bed space, and as soon as they're in bed space, you've got no control, and they're using those devices till really quite late at night. How do you do this? You set up a charging station somewhere where you can just glance across after the children have gone to bed and just look and go, 1, 2, 3 devices. Yep, that's right. Every device is where it should be. It's not snuck its way into a bedroom. Don't let them charge in their bedrooms. Moving on. In order for you to manage your child's tech use, you're going to have to get involved in the tech that they use. So you're going to have to break down the barriers that might exist between you and them. So you're going to have to sit with them while they use their tech. You're going to have to find out what interests them. You're going to have to watch their various YouTube sensations or Instagram reels or anything else, you should be playing their computer games with them. You can't, because you can't really make a value judgment on the computer games they're playing until you've played some of them and talk to them about what's really exciting about it, why it's exciting, why does it take so much time, and maybe you'll get some kind of understanding of how important tech is to your child. Okay. The other thing that you should do in moving on to the ed tech is view their Google Classroom and their Google Calendars with them. This is school-based technology. Your child will have to log into them, but then you sit there and you can do that with them. My advice with this would be to start that very, very early. Almost as soon as, what we're trying now with the P6 students as they come in is to set the groundwork so that you can share this tech with your child. After the child's had the tech for some time, and not very much time, just a few weeks, you'll find trying to get them to show you something on their phone, they won't show you. They'll literally, even if it's the most interesting picture, they'll hold it for you to look at, but they won't actually let you touch their phone. They won't let you sit with their Google Classroom. They won't share their tech at all. They build up barriers as fast and as furious as they can. I mean, we've got the Gollum meme in there because the nicest child in the world, as soon as they've got their tech, they see it as a massive independent and build up the barriers so fast. And it's well worth your while spending time sitting down and just working through that tech with them. It's quite common that that the children will isolate you from your decisions and say, that's not fair, it's not fair, nobody else does this. But if you're to sit down, if you want to know what's going on, you're going to need to sit down with them, talk them through it, but let them talk to you perhaps, rather than you share your fears with them. The one thing to help you with this is create a family media agreement. And if you've let the family media agreement lapse, renegotiate the family media agreement. You'll see there's a QR code there. Do spend a little bit of time now, perhaps with your phone or something, just scanning that. This will be shared later on, and that'll take you to the West Island School recommended family media agreement. It's a Google Doc that you can edit and change and amend as your family sees fit. But a family media agreement outlines how the tech is to be used, the times with which it's to be used, what it's to be used for, how it can be used for personal use, and when it's to be used for personal use. But the strong feeling with everybody who produces these, and this was based on their Common Sense Media family and media agreement, is that it's a negotiation. You need to understand how important the tech is to your child and let them have some input into it. Don't just mandate what happens, because it just won't happen. And we've seen this from time and time again. The other thing is whenever any new tech comes into the house, whether it's a new mobile phone for Christmas or a new laptop or any new tech, is the device should be revisited. The family media agreement should be revisited, and new levels, new agreements put into place. But this must be done in conjunction with your child. Don't force it upon them, otherwise it just won't have any validity whatsoever. Because obviously, gradually, what's going to happen is your child's tech use is going to become more and more independent. And the reason we're having this discussion is at the moment is the children want instant independence, complete 100% independence in their tech use. And you as a parent think, no, I need to manage this. I need to take time with this. It needs to happen over time. But obviously, as they get older, the amount of independence in their use is going to increase. And that should factor into any agreement here. So a couple of pieces of ed tech that we think you should be involved with, and perhaps, if you're managing your child at home, is the first one is their Google Calendar. Their Google Calendar gives you their timetable. It tells you, or it tells them, what lessons they've got coming up. And at the top of the screen here, I'm not sure if you can see the mouse, but the bit in orange there doesn't look so full there, but it's now very full because this was a screenshot during COVID, is all the extracurricular activities that are happening in school. And these are both fed from the school systems. So it allows you to see what lessons they've got coming up. It allows you to see what events are going on at school. And if you encourage your child to use Google Calendar to manage, what we encourage it at school, the tutors encourage the use of Google Calendar to put in other events, you'll then be able to discuss with them, have you left enough time to do that work? Have you left enough time to do this work? And it'll allow, you're helping them manage themselves. And to go with that, we've got the Google Classroom. nearly all your children in all their subjects have a Google Classroom. All of the work, all of the assignments that are set for your child are in their Google Classroom. If you want to know what's going on, if you want to know what work's been set for them, if you want to see anything at all pretty much going on for your child, it's in the stream, it's in the classwork, it's in the assignments. And you can just spend a bit of time sitting down with your child, going through their Google Classroom. They will have to log in, you're going to have to sit next to them. So again, it's all about breaking down the barriers. But you'll see here I've outlined the two areas that perhaps are of most interest. So for each of the classrooms that your child is in, they've got assignments. So that's the work that's been set by the class teacher. And obviously, very importantly, upcoming assignments. Because the whole point of this is you're trying to organise your child to use their tech to meet deadlines successfully. So the dates are all in there, all the work's in there, the learning materials are in there. Questions set by the teacher, videos, everything is in there that you could possibly want. So again, just if you sit down with your child, get them to discuss it, show you what you're doing and all this type of thing. But do get involved in their ed tech if you're trying to manage their online behavior. So they're meeting deadlines successfully, they're planning, they're becoming organized. As we're talking about, so this just is further view your work, allows you to see the upcoming work. But if you're getting organized, do have a look at your child's Google Drive as well. Sit down with them and go, show me your Google Drive. All right. And an organized student's Google Drive perhaps should look like this. All right. They've got folders for every subject. Inside the folders are subfolders. It's all managed. It's easy to follow. This would obviously be an organized student's Google Drive, which is why I've given you screenshots of it. If you go into your child's Google Drive and it looks like this, then there's no or very little management gone into that Google Drive. And perhaps it might be worth spending a bit of time saying, right, okay, how do you find this bit of work? How do you find this bit of work? What are you going to do here? And try and get them. We do this with Year 7 students when they come into school, is we get them to create folders. We get them to create folders on their laptops. We get them to create folders on their Google Drive. And we try to teach them file management. But of course, the more time adults drop into this and see it, the more likely it is to be better used and better managed, and grow in a managed way rather than sort of in an idiosyncratic way that just is very difficult to find work later on, particularly when the students start to get a lot of work. And again, it can always be revisited. Oh yes, sorry. If your child's got a folder, so this is an individuals and societies folder, so their Year 7 work, do have a look, do drop into the folder to check that there's various subfolders in there. So this is the subjects within individuals and societies, and the child here has created subfolders with all of those folders in there. So this is just a very well managed folder. We're going to move on now to the newcomer, the big newcomer into the room. We had barely even heard of this by Christmas, and now this is all over the place. And parents and teachers are very concerned about ChatGPT. There's huge concern about that. People are very, very, very worried about what this means for students. This is just a slide I literally took today from a Facebook group about teachers using ChatGPT. And it was a survey somebody did of 200 teachers. And this is the fears that teachers have for ChatGPT for themselves rather than for their students. Obviously, the big things that we're worried about with the students is academic integrity. Passing off work that's not their own. We worry about loss of research skills. We worry about their future with this tool, because what's going to happen? What jobs are going to be out there for them if it replaces some of the jobs that we were thinking about? What becomes relevant? I think we need to take a bit of a wait and see attitude, and we're educators, so we need to teach people how to use this so that we understand it, we understand its effects better. This is another slide I took off a similar thing. These are the positive ways that ChatGPT can be used in the classroom with children. And you'll see there the democratic opponent. This is people advising other teachers on how to use this. So straight away, ChatGPT becomes an excellent person to develop an academic argument with. So you can put in your point of view, get their point of view, decide to have an argument, and all this type of thing. We've got a collaborative coach. We could drop work in there that's being done by the child and say, how can I improve this? You could got personal tutor that the child could ask ChatGPT, how can I learn a particular skill or learn a particular function or something, anything like this. So there's a lot of positivity in that. And please don't get too worried, because I think with all of these things, it's going to become a tool. It's going to become a massively important tool, a very useful tool for your teachers, and your children are going to have a much more personalized experience in the end once we've learned how to use this tool properly. So it's something that's very much on the school's radar. It's something we've just started to develop sort of strategy papers for management, all this type of thing. But of course it changes, and it's changing so quickly. I've never seen technology come into the domain as quickly as this. Email took 5 years, the internet took 3 years, and ChatGPT has taken 3 months. So it's certainly something that's being looked at, but there's a lot of positivity, a massive amount of positivity about how to use it as a tool. We've had colleagues referring to it as the new calculator. So in the early 1980s, there was a riot when personal calculators came into maths, about all the traditional skills being lost with the advent of the personal calculator. And now the personal calculator features in GCSE papers. Students take graphical calculators into the papers and are tested on its use and all this type of thing. So perhaps over time, things will settle down and we'll learn how to use it as a sort of an amazing tool. But we are very much aware of the worries and issues that come with this. Oh, sorry, this was just a way that it could be used, possible research uses of ChatGPT. So dropping an extended introduction in and saying, how can I improve this? Doing some data analysis. It will do all of this. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. This is for sort of the more senior students, but we'll just move on. Okay. We come to the part of the presentation where it's direct technological innovation. What can you do to physically or digitally control your child's use of tech? I take a big pause here. This is exceedingly difficult to do well. Education, I mean, you'd expect me as an educator to say education is the key. Teaching the children to use it, teaching the children to control themselves is the absolute key. And this is a very sort of last ditch approach. The reason being, it's so difficult. You could spend 5, 6, 7 hours on a weekend setting up some of this technology and think you've done a very, very good job and you've tried very hard. Your child will spend the next 500 hours trying to break apart, work around, find backdoors, to be searching the internet for how to bypass whatever tech that you've put in place. And you just be unaware that that's happened. It's also, and eventually they'll find some workarounds and all this type of thing. So, and it's because it's something you need to, if you go down this path, it's something you need to revisit and revisit and revisit on a very, very regular basis. And also, if you do go down this path, you need to discuss with your child why you're going down this path, and then discuss what they can do for you to ease off on this kind of intervention. So, oh, sorry, this was the slide that was supposed to accompany that last thing. So yeah, yet again, please try the family media agreement. Try that. Try to put that in place. Put that into place before the tech comes in. Have a talk to them about self-control. And then make sure the device isn't in the bedroom when it's curfew time. So once we've done that, but should we wish to go a little bit further, we will advise you can start at the router level. So you could put various controls in at your router level here, and we've got recommend the Asus RTAX, whatever that is. Oh yeah, 3000. As the Asus family of routers have a very good sort of family control, and you can set very good levels of access. And and as router access goes, it's one of the easiest ones to control. There's a mobile phone app you can set up. You can nominate different people in the household, different users as adult, child, young child, and teen child, and they've got various sort of sanctions controls for those children. If you look in the bottom right hand side, there's a QR code there for you to scan in with some advice on how to set up the family's router. And again, we said it's going to take some time, so you have to look at that, go in there, have a look. Do you know the router password? You probably should. Do you know how to control it? Again, you probably should if you're going to go down this path. But this one works really well, because once you get the router done, anything that's routed through the router, you can control. But of course, if you've bought an unlimited data package for your child's phone, they're going to bypass the router. So you're going to have to use something else to control their access to things. Okay. The piece of software that we do use and we recommend is Custodian. Again, you'll see a QR code there, and you get these slides later on. This piece of software we do use on occasion with a few students. And some parents have installed it themselves as well. And it really does, it creates screen time and screen limits. It controls the games and apps that the children can use. Like all of these, it's got smart filtering that blocks access to inappropriate content. But again, you're going to need to take some time to install this. Set it up, and this is not free. Okay, so you can set it up for free, and then there's various levels within there that then have to be purchased to allow you to block content or something. But it's still, we think, sort of the best in class at the moment. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this little talk, and what I just want to do is just sort of go back to how do you manage your child online? And it's really just common sense. Pretty much what you know is right, okay, with a little bit of sort of listening, taking some time to talk to your child. But obviously, you're the parent, you're the adult, you've got to lead by example. You've really got to show an interest in what it is that they do. Have conversations about their tech. Get them to talk to you about their tech use. Get them to play their games with you and talk to you, maybe play their games against you. Don't just make assumptions about what it is they're doing and whether it's a waste of time or not. Talk to them and try to keep everything open. Do create an agreement about tech use, the amount of time that should be spent on schoolwork, the amount versus leisure time, when it should be used. But keep control of the tech. Keep it out of the bedrooms when you don't want it in the bedrooms, particularly at night after curfew. And pretty much that's it from me. So thank you very much. And what we'll do now is address some of the questions that you've got for us in the chat or came in earlier on. Is that over to you, Guy?
Hi. Yeah. Thanks very much, Hugh. That was absolutely great and really informative. And I hope parents who joined Patty for the Year 7 coffee morning earlier in the term feel that they have answered, or Hugh has answered the questions and some of the feedback that you gave. So a couple of questions from me, Hugh, just to maybe get things started, and parents, if you wanted to add your own questions in the Q&A box underneath the screen. You've talked through quite a lot of suggestions, Hugh. You've got thinking about sleep, offering ideas about a charging station, getting tech out of the bedroom, getting involved with their child's tech use, having a family media agreement, and being aware of the ed tech. So one thing that came across my mind was, if a parent is just maybe on that journey of trying to support their child with their tech use, what would be the one priority thing you think that the parent should focus on in order to start addressing some of the heavy tech use that their child may have?
For younger children, I would state getting the device out of the bedroom at night as early as possible, as soon as you can, would be the most important thing that a parent could do. Many of our issues occurred at night time when nobody else is about, while the children's using the phone in the bedroom at night. Get the phone out of the bedroom, then that issue just goes away instantly. For slightly older children, well, all children, I think parents taking an interest in what the child's doing, get them to sit there. You've got to break down those barriers, and you've got to. Their experience is not your experience, so they're growing up. They're growing up very differently to the way that their parents, to the way that you guys grow. I know it's the same for my children. So you're not aware of just how important being online is for them. And it's hugely important. And the isolation they feel if you take the tech away without any hope of them being able to go back on and integrate with their friends and peers online. So that's it in a nutshell. Tech out of bedrooms at night. Talk to your children about their tech use, experience their tech use, get some idea of why it's so important and what it is they're actually doing.
Great, thanks, Hugh. And I mean, one thing that also struck me, and I think you referred to it, is a number of parents speak to me about the monitoring software. I know there's a number of apps, but is using monitoring software the best approach for their child, or do you think there are other more appropriate methods of helping their child manage their tech use?
Monitoring is the absolute last ditch approach. Okay, we've got your children are gradually getting older as they're going through the school, and you're moving from sort of managing absolutely everything in their lives to generally being a vague influencer as they get a lot older. And you've got to give them the skills to manage themselves as they're going through this process, as they're getting older and older and older. And if you just control what they're doing 100%, then they're not getting those skills. So they're just not being able to manage themselves. And as they get to sort of the exam years and things like that, you want the child to be 100% able to manage themselves and their time.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice. Sorry, my children are just going to bed in the background. Sorry about the noise.
All right, we can't hear them.
Oh, good. One of the other bits of feedback, and I'm just going through the student voice that Patty did earlier in the term, which she mentioned at the start of the webinar, is an interesting question that was asked of the students is, do you have any concerns about your technology usage? Now, interestingly, the students, practically every student says no, but how would you respond to that, Hugh? Do you think they genuinely have no concerns, or do you think maybe parents have concerns, children not?
This is the adult child part of raising a child, isn't it? Is we have loads of fears for the children, and they just want to charge in there and have all these experiences. For most of our children, I would say that their usage, although high in our eyes, doesn't cause them a problem at school. This is for most children, not all children, but for most children, they manage it pretty well. They balance their time, they meet their deadlines with good quality work, they get good exam grades. They do spend a lot of time on the devices, 6 or 7 hours on a device in a day, and that's on a school day, is a common figure.
And it's also quite interesting, sorry to jump in, it's also quite interesting that they were also asked how much time they spend on their phones or their technology, and looking down, there are some students that say 6 to 8 hours, but most of the students go in the time frame of 2 to 4 hours.
2 to 4 hours, yeah, on a school day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their use it's immense, really. It really eats up a lot of their time, and that worries parents. It worries me when I see my children locked into the device for hours and hours and hours at a time. Things are different, but also as a parent, you take that with one hand. Things are different. The experiences that children are having now is not what we had, or not what parents had. But you also, I think, inside you've got a moral compass that you know what's right and you know what's right for your child, and you have to sort of balance the two quite carefully, and then go, no, this is it. It's time for lights out, and it's 9:30. Let's get this tech out of the bedroom, and let's have an hour without tech. Read a book. Yeah.
Just to jump in there, something that we've really encouraged this year in CAS is for students to have a hobby that doesn't involve technology, whether it's swimming, running, football, whatever it is that they're spending. And even I know for myself, when I come back, just that time away from technology is really important for the child. So that's something that we've really encouraged. Another thing is that, really it's important for your child to enjoy technology, but by saying, okay, if you finish your homework, you've had your dinner, you can have a half an hour to enjoy your technology at supervised. I think the problems that, lie, as Hugh said, is late at night, and it's when maybe they're coming into school tired because they've been up late. So just having that controlled time around the technology use, that they know every day between 7 to 8 is my time to spend some free time to enjoy technology. But in terms of hobbies, there's lots of hobbies out there that don't involve technology, and it can be really, really beneficial for them to develop their social skills one-on-one.
That's great. And just to add on to that, within school and whilst the students are moving around school, the students are very well aware of the fact that we encourage them to put their phones in their bags. They don't have their headphones in, so they can focus on their learning, and also interacting socially with each other face to face, which is an important skill.
If you do feel that your child's technology use is becoming unmanageable, or you're having difficulty or concerns with it, we're happy, please send us an email and we can work with you on that. It can be quite daunting because you may think, okay, all homework is involving technology. Some may not. So it's getting that kind of happy medium and communicating with us as well. We can help and work from our side to ensure that your child is enjoying their technology in a responsible way.
Yeah, and just going back to that point, about does the homework involve technology or not? If you've sat there with your child and gone through their Google Classroom, that'll give you a very good idea about what they've actually been asked to do with the technology and what they're telling you they've been asked to do with the technology.
Yeah. As a science teacher, the majority of our homework, a lot of it is not involving technology. And also we've made a move away as well from having assignments online. Not all, but there's some that we're printing out now and giving to the students, to getting them off technology as well. So it really depends on the subject. I'm sure in computers, technology is necessary, but in other subjects, not so as much.
Yeah. And just adding on to the Google Classroom, a question was asked by a parent, Hugh. Can parents access Google Classroom without their children? So rather than the child logging in and having a look over their shoulders, is there any way the parents have some other login to be able to view their child's Google Classroom or receive some updates maybe through email? Hugh has paused. Just give him a second, see if he comes back.
I know that parents can join the Google Classroom as well. In my science classes, a lot of the parents have joined. So if you want to be in a Google Classroom, I think you can email the subject teacher on that. Is that right, Guy?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just see if Hugh returns to us. But Emmy suggested that a couple of things actually that are very valuable suggestions. Would it be possible to host this seminar earlier in the year? I think it is important that we keep revisiting technology use, and it may be that different parents join us for each different seminar. So absolutely, we can look at whether or not it's possible to host something earlier in the year, or maybe before the year 6 parents even join us, and we can certainly explore that. And another suggestion, thank you, Emmy, was whether or not we can host some face-to-face workshops where parents can maybe connect with some of our IT team and get some hands-on guidance and advice to help demonstrate how to set up routers. So again, we'll certainly explore whether that is possible. Hugh, are you back with us?
Sorry about that. Good old internet.
Just last two questions, Hugh, I think on the Q&A. One I think you can give us some help with is the Google Classroom. Can parents?
Yeah, I was hearing about
their
that.
kids?
Google Classroom direct access by parents is not good. There is parent accounts, but they really there's a lot of privacy issues that Google have put into place, and you're not going to see as much, anywhere near as much as if you log in with your child and sit there with your child. There will be some assignment information,
Oh, okay.
but you don't really get to see the materials and stuff and all of the paraphernalia the teachers uploaded to go with it. So there'll be some upcoming assignments, but the trouble is it requires a lot of the teacher managing that, so that they've started to turn these off and use deadlines, upcoming deadlines, and they stick to the deadlines that are actually that because they may have created an assignment without deadlines, which will just stay in there all the time, and you'll think it's overdue, but it's not actually overdue. So we've tried quite hard with this, but it doesn't. They haven't set it up very well for parents with the parent account. Unfortunately, they set it up great for teachers and great for students, for uploading work, getting work in, marking work, but it's a little bit harder for the parents to come in, and you certainly won't see what your child sees.
But
It may be worth.
sorry.
I was going to say, it might be worth taking an hour a week, maybe a half an hour a week, and going through the different Google Classrooms with your child.
Particularly if they're younger, I would strongly
definitely
recommend that. Yeah, and if you're managing your child's behavior online, then that's a very, very, very good use of your time. You'll get a very good understanding of what it is that the teachers are asking them to do, and what's due, and how they should be using their technology to meet those deadlines with the work.
Great, thanks, Hugh. And we haven't had any new questions for a little while, so maybe we'll just finish off with answering this question. And I know, Hugh, as a parent, you've navigated this yourself, but suggestions for not allowing the use of certain social media without creating conflict. So any tips, advice, suggestions, things that have worked for you, not worked for you?
I think if you're going to stop your child using something, you're going to be getting conflict. If it's important to them, they're going to push back hard. And you've got to be aware that they're going to push back hard when you make the decision for them to not use it. And their friends probably will be using the software, because different families manage their children's tech use differently. And this causes angst and issues, which is why we try to stop outright bans, why we try to say, control the use, see what's going on. But if it's for your family, then there's going to be conflict, and you've got to deal with that and be ready for that. So Snapchat is still very important for the children. It seems to me that it's becoming slightly less important, and Instagram Reels seem to be getting more important, but it's still out there. Streaks are still important, and children are still desperately trying to keep 365-day streaks going, and that's really important to them, that they have some time to do that, in our experience. So my advice would be, find out what it is that they're using and how they're using it before you try and ban it. Then don't try and ban it, just try to limit the time they spend on it. So that a streak is very important to your child if they're using Snapchat. Very, very, very important. And it's very important they keep those streaks going, but they could keep those streaks going very successfully with half an hour's access a day. They don't need to be on it 24/7, or they don't need to be on it for 18 hours a day to keep the streaks going. So again, a sort of a funnel approach. Don't give them complete access, just give them a time limited sort of access.
And it's all about, the key message, I think, Hugh, is it's all about working with your child, trying to look at what they're using, and that is really the best and the key message that really is coming.
Yeah, and try to find out what it is that interests them so much, because often I look at it and think that's really banal, and that's eaten up so much time, and it's just banal. But it's hugely important to them because everybody else is doing it. And because everybody else is doing it, they're going to feel very, very, very isolated if you completely restrict them from it. And they will feel isolated. So it's just a bit of a balance in there as well. And just break those barriers down, because they will build up the barriers as fast and as furiously as they possibly can. And once the barriers are up, it's much harder to break down. So discussion is just sort of the key here.
Yeah. And then just one last question, where it's not really a question, I think we've actually covered it earlier on, is software that can track websites that have been visited. So not necessarily as a punitive thing, but just keeping an eye on the sorts of sites. Is the
Again, this become sorry, Guy.
You carry on, Hugh. Sorry.
No, this just becomes the parent having to become very tech savvy, perhaps more tech savvy. So, I mean, all of the web browsers all have histories in them straight away. And literally just learn how to do those browsers. Look in Chrome, click at the 3 buttons, click history, look at those histories. And I would strongly recommend you do this with your child. Don't do it without your child, and certainly don't do it without your child's knowledge, but do it with your child sitting there next to you and talk to them about the sites that you see there. Most of them will be fairly innocuous and this type of thing, but try not to use it as a sort of an investigative weapon to control your child's use. Sit there with them and go, okay, it's 7 p.m. We always look at your history on a Friday at 7 p.m. and then let's go through it. And what have we been doing this week? What did you use that for? What did you use that for? What did you use that for? And some parents, the other advice we'd balance on the other side is, if you're looking at their history, can they look at your history? And I pause here because you'd probably think, absolutely not, no way, that's a massive invasion of my privacy. Do remember, that's how your child feels when you're doing that to them. So you probably will get pushback. So if we can do it in an open discussion type way, if you do want to do this, do it very early when the tech devices first come in.
Yeah. And I echo that actually, Hugh, because my own children are year 5. And we constantly look at each other's history, just in terms of what are we looking at, how is it supporting our learning. They're not yet at the stage of social media, but I'm sure that is going to come along, and certainly, Hugh, some of the tips and advice I'm going to follow that you've shared this evening. So I don't think there's any more questions that have popped up on the Q&A. So parents, I hope that you found this evening informative and helpful. And thank you very much if you've provided us with some suggestions for the next webinar or in-school event. But I wish you a very good evening and a good onward week ahead. Anyway, thank you, Hugh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, BJ, and have a lovely evening, everybody.
Okay,
Good night.
thank you. Bye-bye.